The Great Hedgehog Race. Deep in the heart of Cloverwood Forest, the sun rose over a bustling scene. Animals of all shapes and sizes were gathering in excitement, chattering and laughing as they made their way to the grand event of the year, the Great Hedgehog Race. This wasn't just any race. It was the ultimate test of speed, skill, and rolling finesse, where hedgehogs curled into tight balls and raced down Mossy Hill, the steepest and most treacherous slope in the forest. At the center of the excitement was Spike, the reigning champion. Spike had won the race 5 years in a row, and he was known for his unmatched speed and impeccable technique. His shiny coat, polished quills, and confident smirk made him a favorite among the crowd. "Who's going to stop me this year?" he boasted, flexing his tiny paws for the cameras. Well, mostly for the squirrels sketching the event. But among the contestants stood Prickles, a scrappy, slightly awkward hedgehog who had never won a single race. Prickles was known for his clumsy rolling and frequent mishaps, but this year, he was determined to prove himself. He had been secretly practicing every day, rolling down hillsides, dodging rocks, and even timing himself with the help of his best friend, a mischievous squirrel named Nutty. "You've got this, Prickles," Nutty whispered as he handed him a shiny acorn for luck. "Just remember, it's not all about speed. Sometimes the path less traveled is the one that wins the race." Prickles nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what Nutty meant. He glanced over at Spike, who was polishing his quills with a smug grin. "Ready to lose again, Prickles?" Spike teased. "We'll see about that," Prickles shot back, though his voice wavered just a little. The other forest animals had gathered at the base of the hill, creating a lively atmosphere. Rabbits waved tiny banners that read, "Go Spike!" and Team Prickles. A group of squirrels had climbed a tree to ring acorn bells, and a family of owls perched above, ready to provide commentary. "Contestants, take your positions," called Barkley, the old badger who had officiated the race for decades. The hedgehogs lined up at the top of Mossy Hill, their quills shimmering in the sunlight. The slope below them was steep and dotted with rocks, mushrooms, and the occasional patch of slippery moss. "On your marks, get set, go!" With a cheer from the crowd, the hedgehogs launched themselves forward, curling into tight balls and rolling down the hill at incredible speed. Spike immediately took the lead, his years of experience evident as he swerved gracefully around obstacles. Behind him, Prickles wobbled and bounced, struggling to keep a straight path. Halfway down the hill, disaster struck for Prickles. He hit a patch of mushrooms, and instead of rolling over them, he was launched into the air with a loud boing. The crowd gasped as he disappeared into a pile of leaves at the side of the hill. Spike laughed as he sped past. "Better luck next year, Prickles," he called, confident that victory was already his. But Prickles wasn't ready to give up. As he unrolled himself from the leaves, brushing twigs off his quills, he noticed something unusual. A narrow, winding path hidden behind a row of bushes. It wasn't part of the main course, but it seemed to lead down the hill. Prickles hesitated for a moment, then remembered Nutty's advice. "The path less traveled," he murmured. "Why not?" Meanwhile, Spike was busy showing off for the crowd, doing spins and flips as he rolled. "They should call this the Spike Show," he declared loudly, earning cheers and applause from his fans. But in his excitement, he failed to notice a large rock in his path. Bam! Spike crashed into the rock and went flying into a muddy puddle. He spluttered as he emerged, covered in muck and looking less like a champion and more like a soggy ball of twigs. At the same time, Prickles was navigating the secret path. It was narrow and bumpy, with twists and turns that made it difficult to roll smoothly. But Prickles was determined. He focused on keeping his balance, dodging roots and stones, and using his claws to push himself forward when the path got too steep. Back on the main course, Spike regained his momentum and approached the finish line, confident that no one was ahead of him. He uncurled himself and raised his arms in triumph as he rolled across the line. "Another victory for Spike!" he shouted. But the crowd wasn't cheering for Spike. Instead, they were going wild, clapping and stomping their feet. Spike turned around, confused, and saw Prickles standing proudly at the finish line. Leaves stuck in his quills but a big grin on his face. "What?" Spike gasped. "How did you?" The owls announced the winner with great fanfare. "Ladies and gentlemen, the champion of this year's great hedgehog race, Prickles." Spike stared in disbelief. But that's impossible. I didn't see you pass me." Prickles chuckled and shrugged. "Sometimes the path less traveled is the fastest one," he said, repeating Nutty's advice. The crowd lifted Prickles onto their shoulders, celebrating his unexpected victory. Even Spike, though annoyed, had to admit, "You got lucky this time, Prickles. But next year, no shortcuts." Prickles smiled and winked. "We'll see about that." That night, the forest threw the biggest party Cloverwood had ever seen, complete with music, dancing, and a feast of berries and nuts. Prickles was the star of the evening, proving to everyone that determination, creativity, and a little luck could lead to greatness, even for the underdog or under hedgehog.